Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by, and welcome to the Small Business Resources Call. At this time, all lines are in a listen-only mode, and as a reminder, today's call is being recorded. I would now like to turn the call over to our host, Senator Mike Morrell. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, and welcome, everybody. Grateful that we can get together, and hopefully this information will be valuable to you today. So, again, just grateful. A little bit of background, I had been in business, and I had owned a real estate company and a lending company and been through 4 recessions. 2008 is when the banking crisis fell apart, and that was probably one of the most difficult times for me. And yet what's happening today, I'm glad I'm not in business anymore, but it's really tough. And my DNA still has business in me since I started being self-employed from the time I was about 20 years old. So I've walked in your shoes, and Assemblyman Jay Obernolte, who's one of our guests, he has too. Been in business all of his adult life, and so this is tough times, and we're grateful. Small businesses is the lifeblood of jobs in California and America, and I know you guys have families you love, you have employees, and they have families, and you've got bills to pay, so this is a difficult time, and we've been hit extra hard. Again, I've been through 4 recessions, and I'm not seeing anything like this. So what we want to do today is I do have some concerns about the debt our country's incurring, but my number one concern is that we try to keep our businesses going in the Inland Empire. Because since Congress passed this, they have given us some opportunities as they sign this in the law this week, and we want to be able to provide you with as much information to be helpful to try to make sure your business is not just survive but thrive. And so again, we're grateful that you're on this call. So I will be the moderator today, and I will also be taking a few questions. And for those of you who wrote questions in, thank you. Want to just kind of share how we're going to do those in a little bit. But first, let me introduce our 2 guests. First is Assemblyman Jay Obernolte. He represents the 33rd Assembly District, which includes communities in the San Bernardino Mountains, as well as Victorville and Apple Valley and a number of other cities. And today he serves as Vice Chair of the Assembly Budget Committee. As well as I mentioned earlier, Jay has a large business employing a lot of people in Southern California, so he does walk in your shoes. And one thing why I asked Assembly Member Jay Obernolte to be on this call is he's done, as I've known him over the years, he does a great job at taking complicated technical issues that these government bureaucrats write, 1,000 pages for one bill, and he's able to break them down and to simplify them so that even I can understand them. So, Jay, thank you for being on the call.
Well, thank you, Senator, and thank you very much for organizing this. These are certainly unprecedented times that we are involved in, and the burden that the stay-at-home order is going to cause is falling disproportionately on small businesses. And we all know that small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy here in California. 70% of Californians are employed by small businesses, and so we need to make sure that our small businesses are able to emerge unscathed at the end of this crisis. So as the Senator mentioned, I've run a small business for over 30 years now. I still have quite a few employees. We've had to have our employees transition to working from home. We're doing the best that we can, and I know that everyone is. So I know firsthand the pain that this is causing. So I want to walk through briefly some of the programs that are available to help small businesses weather this crisis. And I'll start with the programs that were recently enacted at the federal level through the CARES Act that was signed into law by President Trump last week. So there are 2 main components of the CARES Act that concern small businesses. The first of them is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So this is administered through the Small Business Administration. These loans are up to $2 million. They are long-term. They are relatively low interest. The interest rate is 3.75% for for-profit businesses and 2.75% for nonprofits. This is supposed to compensate for loss of revenue due to the coronavirus. Very importantly, small businesses are eligible to apply for an advance on those loans of up to $10,000 that you can receive very quickly. It's designed for rapid assistance. Also, the SBA has a streamlined application process for those loans. So that's an overview of that program. I want to emphasize those are loans, though they have to be paid back. Another part of the CARES Act, which is almost unprecedented, is the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP is what it's called. What this is a loan/grant program of up to $10 million to help small businesses meet their payroll during this crisis. The way it works is you can apply for a loan of up to 100% of your payroll and your rent and utilities added together, prorated over a 1 month period, and you can apply for up to 2.5 times that. So basically, you can apply for 2.5 times your payroll, rent, and utility expenses before the crisis hit. That is a loan. It carries a very low interest rate. That interest rate is actually currently still under negotiation. It was set at 0.5%. I think it might end up being 1%. Some of the banks were saying that wasn't going to be tenable for them. Still, whatever it is, it's going to be very low interest. The deal is, though, that the unprecedented part of that is the grant portion of it, which is that after the loan has been funded, when things get back to normal, you can apply to the lender to have a portion of that loan forgiven. And you can get forgiven up to 100% of the money that you actually spent of those loan proceeds on paying your employees, your rent, and your utilities. So the caveats are it's supposed to be an incentive to keep people employed. So if you lay people off or if you reduce compensation to employees, then those are portions of the loan that will not be repayable. So it's an incentive to keep people employed. Some other things to be aware of is if you have employees that make over $100,000 a year, the loan amount and the grant amount is capped at $100,000 per year, and so you'll have to prorate that. So that's an amazingly comprehensive and generous provision that's been made for small businesses by the federal government. A couple things to be aware of, though. First of all is $350 billion were allocated by Congress to that program. I am 100% certain that this program is going to be oversubscribed, meaning that more businesses are going to apply for those loans than there are money to fund those loans. So I would encourage you to get those in quickly. And, we'll see what Congress does. There's going to be a lot of pressure to, if it is oversubscribed, to allocate some more money to that program. And I would be surprised if that did not occur. So both of these programs are in addition to the financial relief that the SBA's traditional loan programs provide. So we already have a series of loans called 7A loans, which can provide loans up to $5 million to cover business expenses. So those are also still available to you. So any of those loan programs that you would apply for, you would apply not through the SBA, but directly with lenders. This is very important. And I've gotten a lot of questions about who are the SBA lenders and which one should I pick. You can get a list of those SBA lenders on the SBA's website, or we will be posting a list of lenders in the district at the conclusion of this call that you can get on our website. But in response to the question, who should I apply with? You should definitely apply with the bank that you already have an existing banking relationship with. These loan programs are brand new. There's the details of exactly how to apply and how that application process is going to work are still being developed. And in fact, I know our local bank is not even taking applications for the payroll protection program yet because it's so brand new. Our local banks have told us that it's going to be probably Tuesday or Wednesday next week before they're in a position to start processing those loan applications. But because there are going to be so many businesses applying, the banks are triaging those applications, and they're giving priority to the customers with whom they already have a banking relationship, which makes perfect sense because they're familiar with those companies, they're familiar with their payroll and their expenses, and so it all goes through their bank. That's what you would expect those banks to do. So that's my advice as regards the federal programs. In addition to that, the state of California, just in the last 24 hours, have announced a couple of new programs to help businesses in California. So the first of those is a new program that the governor has allocated $50 million to. It's actually an existing bank called the California Infrastructure and Economic Bank that is going to be providing loans to individuals and businesses that are not eligible for SBA loans. So there are a variety of reasons why you might not be eligible for an SBA loan, but if that's the case, then please consider applying with the California Infrastructure and Economic Bank for one of the California-specific loans. Also, just in the last 24 hours, the governor announced that there's going to be an assistance program for small business owners that provides a loan of sales tax revenue. So in other words, in the sales tax that you collect from customers, instead of remitting it to the state, you would be able to use that money to pay your expenses for up to 12 months. You'd still have to report it to the state, but you wouldn't have to pay it to the state until 12 months from now. So that's something that is capped at $50,000 per business, but should be a big help, kind of a bridge loan for a lot of small businesses in California. So that's the 30,000-foot view of the programs that we're going to be talking about today. And thank you very much, Senator Morell, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Assemblyman Overnolte. And by the way, as our Assemblyman just said, that overview of the program, we're going to be drilling down on some of the actual lending guidelines in a minute after our next guest gives his overview. So that will be the point where I think we get a little bit more specific on some of your questions. And also, I'd like to give you Jay Overnolte's website. He has a lot of valuable information on there. I'll repeat it twice. But before I do, you can be getting your pens out. Just wanted to repeat something that Assemblyman Overnolte said about these lenders. One of our questions is, today a gentleman wrote in and said, hey, I've already contacted 5 banks and they're not doing this loan. Well, this program just went into effect today, and banks like J.P. Morgan came out in the news today and said they're not going to be up and running until next week. So there are going to be more banks online next week, but we want to get you guys going today because that money is going to be limited. So the early bird gets the worm, as they say. So here's Jay's website, and I'll repeat it twice. It's ad33.a, S like in Sam, MRC as in cat.org. Again, ad33.asmrc.org. A lot of good information on Jay's website. Okay, my next guest is Vincent McCoy, who is the Executive Director of the Inland Empire Small Business Development Center, and he's been busy providing webinars the last few weeks, and so I wanted to try to bring the best people to you, our business owners, and self-employed, and so I knew Jay would do well, and I wasn't sure because I hadn't met Vincent until yesterday on a call, and within the first few minutes, he's been given these conference calls for the last couple of weeks, and so he's really bringing us up to some up-to-date information. And just as a caveat for him, things are very fluid right now, and they're changing every day, so the information we're sharing as we understand it now, today, at this hour. But we encourage you to check in, to regularly check into all of our websites, and I'll be providing Vince's at the end of his overview, and then I'll give you my State Senate Morale website in a minute here too. But Vincent McCoy, welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. The Small Business Development Center we are an SBA resource partner, which means that we get our funding from Small Business Administration, the organization that is providing both of the loans that were described before. As such, our job is to help people understand the program, help them understand how they can take advantage of them, and help them walk through the processes of applying for the loan, understanding what resources are available in support of the loan. We're also funded in part by the state of California, Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. And as such, we have two programs where our job is to help people get more capital and help them grow their businesses. So we're leveraging those dollars so that we can provide technical assistance to existing and startup small businesses and guide them through this process and through these challenging times. And my role here is to support the information that is out there and provide additional information as needed. And I've had the privilege of being able to answer some of the questions that you guys have been posed already, and I look forward to helping in more detail. I think the one nuance that wasn't pointed out in the PPP program is that the wages paid to the employees cap at $100,000. But what's also in there is it allows the employer, if someone is under $100,000 salary, they can include their benefits, the cost of group insurance. So that would mean, say, if someone's at $85,000, but their benefits get them to $100,000, you can include those as well. So that gives the employer a little bit more money to an employee who isn't paid for $100,000 to be included in their request for funding.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Vincent, thank you. And let me give you Vincent's website, and I'll repeat that twice also. It's Inland Empire, S like in Sam, B as in boy, D as in David, C as in cat, .org. Let me repeat that. Inland Empire, SBDC.org. And that'll be on my website at the end of the meeting here, so in case if you weren't able to write that down. Let me give you my website for Senator Morrell, and I'll repeat that too. It's Senate, SENATE.ca.gov, G-O-V/Morrell, capital M-O-R-R-E-L-L, and I apologize, it's kind of a long one. It's the one they stuck me with up in the Senate. So again, for Senator Morrell's website, it's senate.ca.gov/Morrell, capital M-O-R-R-E-L-L. Now what I'd like to do is get into your questions, and so here's how we're going to work the questions. Well, first of all, let me back up and just say, hearing and watching the news and hearing about, businesses having a hard time, and especially me having been in business all of my adult life, it's in my DNA. It was concerning, but I will tell you, the questions you sent in, most of you, before you actually asked the question, you kind of gave an overview of what was happening in your business. I got to tell you, that reality really impacted me because I mean, you guys are boots on the ground in my district and in Jay's district, and the reality of it with some of you're going through was just touching, and so God bless you all, and our prayers are with you. So let me just the format for questions is, since we have a lot of people on the call, we had many of you, thank you very much, write in and ask questions. And so I'm going to read the question and not necessarily the background information, just so we can get through as many questions as possible. And a number of you wrote in asking the same questions as others. So we're not going to take every question, but we're going to try to get through the most important ones, and hopefully I tried prioritizing them in the order, not that they were received, but the orders of importance. In other words, I had 6 of the same questions in one category, 5 in another, so I took them that way. So my first question, and I'm going to give this to Assemblyman Obernolte, since it's from one of his constituents named James, from Big Bear Lake. And here's the question, Jay. Does the California Small Business Loan Guarantee Program have any provision for turning all or a portion of the loan into a grant? In other words, do they have to repay?
Yeah, so that is a loan guarantee program, which means that it assists businesses with getting a loan by having the state guaranteed repayment of the loan. However, the business still must repay that loan. So the best deal going is that the payroll protection program, because those loans are paired with grants where that make most of the loan, in some cases all of the loan, not have to be repaid. So that should be everyone's first choice if you can qualify for that, because so far the California programs do require repayment.
Good. Thank you for that. I'm going to answer quickly another question, which I sort of answered from Gabe. I actually know Gabe. He's another gentleman that's in my district and Jay Obernolfi's district about he was having difficulty finding a lender, and I just want to restate that I think most of them will be up and running hopefully by next week, since these loan programs just came out this week. So, okay, so Gabe, let me know if you have any other questions on that. Next, I'd like to take a question from Deborah, and this is for Vincent. Vincent, Deborah asked this. We applied for the EIDL loan, and you may explain what that is, EIDL, for our business on the SBA website. Again, we applied for the EIDL loan for our business on the SBA website. It was for the emergency funds. We received an application number. Is that all I need to do to apply for the EIDL loan?
Sure. The first part of my response is, did you apply before March 30th? Because if you applied before March 30th, you need to go on and reapply. And the reason for reapplying is that on the last page of the application, it allows you to opt in to the advance payment of the $10,000. Now, if you applied afterward and you have a confirmation number, you do not need to do anything at this time.
Okay, good information. I did not know that. That's good. Jay, let me go back to you, because I think this is maybe from your district, from Tim. Why is it an advantage for my business to use the Paycheck Protection Program, where my employees are paid through a loan to me, rather than having them pursue unemployment claims, which will compensate them in the same fashion without incurring a business loan?
So that's a good question. The advantage is that, obviously the loan ends up getting forgiven, but the loan covers more than just what you're paying to your employees in salary. It also covers rent, it covers utilities, and it covers benefits. So you'll do better with the PPP program rather than furloughing people and letting them claim unemployment. Also, it's better for your employees because unemployment in most cases does not pay 100% of their wages. It only pays a portion of their wages, so they'll do better. And you'll do better long-term also because if you furlough employees, and let them claim unemployment, they will affect your unemployment experience ratio, which means that you will pay more for unemployment insurance in the future. So those are all reasons why the PPP program is a much better way to go.
Okay. Thank you, Jay, for that. Okay, next question. Whoever wants to take it between you two, Jay or Vincent. This is from Donna, and Donna asks, can I take a PPP loan for payroll expenses and lease payments? And by the way, I like getting down into the nitty-gritty now because these are practical questions. In other words, what can the money be used for? What are the guidelines? So this is, I think this is the type of things I hope is going to be valuable to our listeners. So let me repeat that. Can I take a PPP loan for payroll expenses and lease payments and also apply for an SBA COVID-19 disaster loan to cover other business expenses like marketing and consolidating credit card business debt incurred? I want the loan forgiveness for PPP and don't want to jeopardize breaking the guidelines.
Okay. There's a couple of clarifying things. One is that both the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and the PPP loan are in response to COVID-19. So they're both COVID-19 loans with just two different offering. And so the economic injury disaster loan is intended to replace the company's losses. So that the company, as of January 31st, 2020, was able to cover its obligation, and because of the pandemic, or however we want to describe it, you are no longer able to do that. That loan will allow you to replace those losses with funding from the government. And those could be in the form of payroll, could be in the form of other expenses. The PPP is specifically targeting the act of keeping people employed, as was described before. The real goal in there is to make sure that you don't send people to the unemployment line, or if you already laid them off, you bring them back with the assurance that if you spend that money on payroll and fixed expenses, that money will be forgiven. So the answer is really that you can use both loan programs, and what you want to do is, if you apply for both, is when you get those offers for funding, is look at them side by side and make a business decision as to which one is best for your operation. And what we can tell right now is, for most people, if they have employees and they can bring them back and sustain them, the PPP is probably going to be the better product, especially because of the forgiveness clause.
Okay. Donna, hopefully that helps. Appreciate that answer, Vincent. Here's an easy one, either one of you, from Terry. She's a local realtor here. She says, do copies of tax returns have to accompany any request for any of these COVID-19 government assistance programs for small businesses?
So I can take that. The answer is you will be applying directly with your SBA lender. So there isn't one set of guidelines for that. The SBA lenders are going to have their own guidelines that are going to vary from bank to bank. However, what you can definitely expect to have to provide is your employment tax returns, since that's what's going to establish the amount of money that you can borrow. So you should definitely be prepared to provide all of your employment tax returns for the last year. And it wouldn't surprise me if they asked for your business tax returns as well.
Okay, good answer. Yeah, that makes sense. I used to be a lender, and there are different lending criteria that lenders have. And so my guess, Terry, would be you're probably going to need to have your tax returns. Most lenders like that. It gives them a little bit more security. Okay, thank you for that, Jay. Very good. Okay, this is from Eric. Eric writes, and either one of you can take this. We're in the process of obtaining a fairly large business loan to purchase and expand our restaurant, and he has the name of the restaurant here. Will participating in any of these programs jeopardize that loan? In other words, they're at a current lender right now getting a loan to expand their business, and if they're going to go after one of these government loans that just came out, would that possibly jeopardize his loan that's in process?
So I can take a stab at that. It's hard to say because presumably he would be applying for a large business loan from a non-government-backed lender. So they're going to have their own criteria for determining who is creditworthy and what loans they're going to want to fund. However, I would imagine that in particular the PPP loan would actually be a positive and not a negative, because that PPP loan, because it's forgivable, is going to put his business in a better cash position than it would have been if he had not taken it. And so I think that the lender would probably view that favorably.
Yeah, and just me having been in lending, I would agree with that. Where the lenders or his bank is probably going to get nervous is, they're going to look at the debt-to-income ratio. And since it's a new business, they're not going to want to add any more, incur any debt. They're going to loan him up to what they feel he can repay at this point. But since that loan does not have to be repaid, then in fact that I would agree with Jay on that. Okay, thank you, Senleyman over Nolte. Let me go on to another question. We're knocking them down, guys. Thank you very much. I like that it's moving quick, and hopefully we're answering a lot of questions out there. So Michael from Rancho Cucamonga says, I have been trying to, okay, here it is. Okay, I'm asking if you can apply for both the PPP and the EIDL programs.
Yes, you can.
Vincent says yes. And would you like to add anything on that, Vincent?
Probably the thing that would be is that in the EIDL, you can apply for the $10,000 advance payment. That advance payment is expected to become a forgivable portion, which would mean that if you do the PPP and say you get a forgivable portion on that as well, it will be reduced by the $10,000 that's forgiven elsewhere. So it's a big impact that I've been told. But it makes sense. If they're forgiving on one portion, they shouldn't let you double dip in terms of the forgiveness.
Let me add, Senator, that there is a question on the PPP application that asks if you currently already have an SBA loan. So that is probably disqualifying. You probably can't already have an SBA loan and apply for another loan. But in terms of these two coronavirus programs, you can apply for both of them.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's the other thing. It will ask you if you have a loan in place already. Yeah.
Okay.
And then that loan has to be in good standing in any case if you do have that. So that's something you don't want to have defaulted on an SBA or federal government loan to disqualify you from both programs.
Good. Thank you, Jay and Vincent. I don't mind. I'm going to take the next question and would love for you to jump in. This is from Melissa from Rancho Cucamonga. She says, I appreciate the effort to provide relief or aid to the small business. And so this is a little bit off on these questions, but this affects us all. And she says, our government should be concerned about our businesses. But once the coronavirus runs its course, the businesses need to get back to work. And many independent contractors, will still face the loss of income and work because of Assembly Bill 5. Is there any relief or aid that can be provided to us as our economy recovers? What AB 5 is for our audience, it was an Assembly bill that basically took the majority of independent contractors in California, affecting 1 million jobs, and said you have to be employed and W-2'd. You can no longer be independent contractors, which is really, this is before this COVID outbreak. It was expected this was going to hurt approximately 1.1 million jobs. And so a little bit of background on this, it sort of has unintended consequences. I mean, freelance writers, those who work as independent contractors in Hollywood. I had some physical therapists come into my office, and what I didn't know at the time is many of them, some work at hospitals, others work for doctors. They may work for 8, 9, 10, 12 doctors. And one doctor, Dr. A will send the physical therapist out to one of their patients who just had surgery on their shoulder, and so they want them to be now employed. And one young lady told me she works for 12 doctors, and so how is she going to talk those doctors into to all putting her on W-2 and paying her payroll taxes and that sort of thing? It's just sort of a logistical nightmare. And then I know the independent truckers are trying to work something out, but I want to explain that one because that is so important. 78% of our goods and services are trucked in to California, food and cars and furniture, and so independent truckers often carry for 20, 30 different companies, and they want those guys to be W-2s. So you're not going to have 20 companies allowing one guy to be W-2. So the thing goes on. Ride shares, interpreters, even Santa got cut out of the business this year because many malls employ Santa Clauses for 2 to 3 weeks, and then when Christmas is over, they're gone, and they want malls to employ these people. So this has been a real terrible bill sponsored by one of my Democratic friends from San Diego, and I would just ask, I'm asking for your help on this bill, and we'll be sending out when we get back in the session in Sacramento more information on that. But remember, we have to help our independent people, which some of you are in that thing push. But remember, there is sort of a circle that goes around where, a guy who sells cars and can't sell cars right now, he was buying computer equipment, and the computer equipment needs to be serviced by freelancers, and so we have to get those million people back to work. And so we'll be contacting you again when we get back to session and asking you to contact certain key people in this labor committee, as well as our governor, and ask them to please repeal this AB 5 so we can get our independent contractors back to work. Because again, this was a problem. This was a huge problem before the COVID virus broke out. And so that's a good question, again, from Melissa, and I thank you for that. And Jay, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Senator. The legislature is actually in recess right now, and it's out of respect for the stay-at-home order. And we're supposed to be in recess through April 13th. Just in the news in the last 24 hours has been a lot of discussion that we're going to be in recess longer than that, which I think will be the case. So because our legislative year is going to be so shortened, we have all been asked to cut out any non-essential bills that we have in our bill packages. But I can tell you that the AB 5 related bills are essential. We're not going to be cutting those out. I have a piece of AB 5 legislation called AB 1925 that would create a small business exemption for AB 5 because I feel so strongly that it's going to have a devastating effect on small businesses. So that is still a discussion that we want to have this year, and we're certainly going to need everyone's help to call attention to the problems that bill causes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can just go on with the list. Even referees and umpires at basketball games and baseball games, they're not going to be able to work because, if you are playing softball in a church league, which church is going to W-2 those people? So it's actually, again, unintended consequences. It's opened up a can of problems, and we hope that when you're back to work and we're back to session, you guys will help us to stop that AB 5. So thank you for that. Let me go on. That's a nice little break, but it still has to do with creating jobs. And again, I'm sure a number of you in the audience today probably have been affected by that. Here's another question. There's actually a couple of questions from Jeanette, but I'm just going to ask her second question, and we'll try to get around to her first question if we have time. But she says, regarding the emergency advance portion that I was told will not have to be paid back, what is the guidelines for what will not be paid back to the SBA? The person I spoke with on the phone at the SBA did not give me clear guidelines or ask the cost of our rent or payroll, just said it basically is a grant that we do not have to pay back. But she's looking for clear guidelines and communication on if there's anything of that will have to be paid back, providing she, I guess, pays for the appropriate.
I'll take a stab at that one.
Go ahead.
So this is under the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And what is happening is what they've proposed to do is anyone who applies, because at one point their discussion was any business that applies is going to get $10,000 and they won't have to pay the first $10,000 back. And that's the idea behind it. It's different than the payroll, the PPP, which is related to payroll. This one is simply related to Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And that's why when you call SBA, they're not going to give you clear guidelines, because the guideline is essentially if you will apply for more than $10,000, the $10,000 up to $10,000 that you get advanced to you is not going to be repaid. And it's unbelievable, but it's somewhat that simple. That the first up to $10,000 will not be asked to be repaid.
Okay, good. We're gonna try to get back to her first question, Jeanette, after we get through some of these other questions. Okay, here's an easy, probably a short answer question. How can a home-based business with no employees qualify for an EIDL loan? Anybody on this? Okay.
Sure. Well, sure. I'll take a stab at it. So, both of the COVID-related federal programs are designed to cover self-employed individuals. So as long as you have a bona fide business, if you've filed, even if you're not a corporation, if you filed Schedule C on your federal income tax return, then you should be eligible. The PPP program, though, is only designed to incentivize you not to lay people off. So if you're the only employee, then you're going to be limited in the amount of money that you're going to be able to qualify under that program. But you should still qualify for both.
Good. Okay, another question as we're moving on. Hopefully the audience we're getting through. What I'd like to do, though, is keep it moving here. So let me, whoever answer this, this gentleman, his name is Ed, and he's from your area, Jay. Ridgecrest, I believe, is your area, Lake Isabella, and a good part of San Bernardino County, he says. And he's been working with the federal immigration judges to provide translators and interpreters. He lives in California, but travels to different cities across the nation depending on the courts, like Chicago, Boston, Baltimore. And so as he's applying for this loan, he says there's two questions he's not sure how to answer, yes or to no, to these questions. But I think that answer is he should answer them. But it says, did you work in another state and or Canada during the last 18 months? And then the other one is, did you work for an agency of the federal government during the last 18 months? And so he believes he should answer both questions by saying yes, according to the description that he provided. He just wants to make sure that yes is the correct answer, since he's, I guess, working in different places other than California. He lives in California, but these cases take him across the United States. Either one of you gentlemen on that one.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. So I have not seen those questions on the federal application, so that's probably a question that's being asked by a specific SBA lender. And in that case, I would say, obviously you answer as honestly as you can, and if you have a question about what exactly they're trying to get at, then I would ask the lender and have them explain that question, because I don't believe that's on the federal application.
Yes, I would agree. I haven't seen none of the applications for this, so I think it's probably the lender-specific question. And I would always answer the questions honestly, because they're going to do background checks, they're going to do investigation, and you want to make sure that you're honest, because if they find something that you're dishonest about, it hurts your chance to get assistance. Okay,
good. Okay, I'm going to have some other questions here. I just want to take 60 seconds here. If you guys want to write down our websites again, I gave them at the first of the show, and I know we've had a lot of people join us since. So Assemblyman Obernolte's website again is 8033.a, S as in Sam, MRC.org. Vincent's website is Inland Empire, S as in Sam, B, D as in David, C.org. And then my website is Senate, senate.ca.gov/Morrell. And Morrell is spelled Morrell. Okay, and I'll give those once again at the end when we're done. So I wanted to give our two speakers here a chance to take a deep breath. Okay, next question is from, can't find a name here. Doesn't matter for right now. Here's the question. Is it possible to obtain a loan for disabled seniors? And Jay, you want to answer that?
Sure, and let me find the question here, because the context was, this is a gentleman who is trying to start a business. So these are small business programs. They are not designed for business expansion or business development. They are designed to keep small businesses afloat through the coronavirus crisis. So my understanding is that for the most part, you must already have a small business to be able to apply for one of those loans. You cannot use a loan to start a small business, one of the coronavirus loans. However, the SBA has other loan programs that might be appropriate for that.
Good.
Yes, and depending upon the amount of the loan, we work at the SBDC, we work with various organizations to do microloans. So if the loan amount is under $75,000, there are a number of nonprofit lenders that we work with who can help you go through that, help you get the funding you need. And in certain cases, their target could be underserved populations such as veterans, the elderly, women, minorities. So they may have particular desire to help him start this business. And we can help him walk through that process and get him ready for the paperwork and help him find the lenders.
Good. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you. Okay, here's an easy one. What help is available? This is from Cindy, by the way. What help is available for self-employed people like me? I'm a hairdresser who has not worked in 3 weeks.
As we have been saying, both of the federal loan programs are designed to also help self-employed people. So you don't necessarily have to have a big business to qualify for these loan programs, but you have to have a bona fide business. So if you're a hairdresser and you have been doing the right thing and declaring your income on your Schedule C, and you can demonstrate that you've got a bona fide business, then you should be eligible.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that, Jay. Okay, here's a question from John. He says, we are an S Corp, and I am currently the only employee. I did not see anything that mentioned S Corps or a minimum number of employees. Would either disqualify me for a loan or a grant? John.
So the answer to that is no. Go ahead, you can take that.
Yes, no. The organizational type isn't really relevant. You just have to make sure that you're adjacent. You have to be a bona fide business, so you've got to be able to demonstrate that the business was generating revenue and paying expenses, and it's a bona fide business.
Good. Okay, hopefully that answers your question, John. This is from Victorville. Ted writes in and says, as a small business owner that depends on interaction with my customers face-to-face, I am particularly hard hit by the current restrictions. Will there be anything specifically geared towards those of us that are self-employed and unable to conduct business as usual in either a state or federal action that is forthcoming?
So we have been talking about those programs, and all of these are designed to help the self-employed in exactly the kind of situations that Ted is finding himself. So, all of those programs that we've been talked about, would be helpful to him. Also, I see he's asking about being better informed, what he can do, and you've given out our websites. Also, I would say follow us on Facebook. You can search for Assemblyman Obernolte. It's spelled Obernolte. We have a lot of information that we put out through the Facebook site, and if you follow us there, you'll be able to get the information that you need. And also, I'm sure that Senator Morrell has a similar Facebook page.
Thank you.
Yes, and the Small Business Development Center Network, we have every day, Monday through Friday, a 3 o'clock webinar where we're answering questions that might help him.
Thank you, and hope that helps you, Ted. Okay, this is from Marie. I am hearing that a single-member LLC, a disregarded entity for tax purposes with no employees, can apply for the economic injury loan and transfer the loan to the payroll protection program, and the loan be forgiven when used for commercial office lease payments, utilities, and insurance payments to keep the business afloat while closed under the state's shelter-in-place order. Is that correct? That is a complicated question, Marie. Which one of you gentlemen would like to address that?
You can't transfer the loan, so that's one of the essential pieces there. You can apply for both of the loans and decide which one you want to use, but transferring the loans is not an option, as I understand it.
Jay, any other additional comments on that?
Sure. So let's talk about the single-member LLC portion of that question. That by itself shouldn't be disqualifying. However, if you're applying under the PPP program, that is designed, it's right there in the name of the program, Payroll Protection Program. It's designed to protect your payroll. So the guidelines that the federal government has issued is that to not expect anything more than 25% of the loan amount to be able to be used for things other than payroll. So that's important to keep in mind. If you think that you're going to use, 90% of the loan to pay your rent, that's probably not something that you're going to be permitted to do.
Good. Marie, hopefully that helps you. That's you had 3 or 4 questions in there. Hopefully we got them all for you. Joshua, this is an easy question. What about small nonprofit organizations? Can they apply?
Yes, they can.
Good. Hear that, Joshua? Nonprofits, and just go online, and yes, you can. Another question from Alan says, what programs are available and applicable to a sole proprietor barber shop for loss of income and rent?
So loss of income, to me, sounds like economic injury disaster loan would be more appropriate because, again, the payroll protection program, those loans are supposed to be used to meet payroll. So loss of income, I would steer them towards the EIDL loans.
I agree.
Good. 3 for 3 on that agreement. Assemblyman Obernolte, this is from Scott. He addressed this question to you. He said, I started my business in January of this year. I was a sole proprietor and moved into becoming an LLC due to the amount of money and the expansion that I want to do. We are a website development, computer repair with an e-commerce website that we were about to launch, with an expansion into becoming a distribution facility. I don't think we will be able to do that after this situation. What is available for us? Scott, for Assemblyman Obernolte.
Sure. So, again, these loans are designed to help small businesses weather this crisis. They're not designed for business expansion or business development. So it's going to put businesses who just recently opened in a difficult position because they're going to want to see that you're a bona fide business with a bona fide, ongoing concern. So if you just started the business, you might have trouble qualifying, but don't let that deter you. I would still apply.
Good. Yeah, I would too. Okay, I've got another question here on rent. I own a small business with no employees. She had to close down. This is from Donna, her dance studio in Rancho Cucamonga temporarily. The landlord is still requesting full payment of rent for April, and we're not sure how long this is going to continue, but also the utilities and the liability insurance are all due this week. She has no income from the business until she can reopen her doors for her students to return to lessons. Are there any forgivable loans available for my rent and my bills that I won't have to pay back because of the COVID-19?
So because she is the only employee, I would think that the EIDL loan would be the most appropriate thing because she's got these insurance and rent expenses that she is facing. And in her case, that $10,000 advance is going to be something I think would be very helpful because she doesn't have to pay it back. I think that meets the criterion of what she's asking for. So I would highly encourage her to apply for that. But also, I would encourage her to continue talking to her landlord because I think landlords across the state are struggling with what to do with this situation. Most landlords, I think, are going to come around to the realization that you can't get blood from a stone. You can't expect businesses that are closed to pay 100% of their rent. And I think that in most cases, arrangements will be made. I think it'll depend on the landlord whether or not that's just deferment or if it's forgiveness or a payment of a portion of the rent or something like that. But I think in most cases, those are the deals that we're going to see negotiated between landlords and tenants.
Yeah, I happened to talk to a property manager today, and I asked her that question, how they're handling it, and they're taking a case by case. If the person is working and has a job, well, they're not probably gonna do anything. But proof that they've had, they've run into a block wall here, they're going to work with them as best as they can. So I would agree with that. So Donna, I'd go back in another week or two and ask again. Okay, this next question is for Vince. This is Looks like a complicated question, so I will do my best to be clear as I read it. This was addressed to you, Vincent. It says, I understand that the purpose of the Paycheck Protection Program loan is to cover 75% payroll, rent, mortgage interest, utilities, etc., 25%. Due to the California small business commercial real estate landscaping being significantly higher priced than the national average and rent payments being much higher percentage of a small business overall monthly debt service, do you foresee SBA possibly altering those ratios to a more balanced level for California, ? Maybe from 75%, 25% to something closer to 60% over 40, ? From David.
Yes. To David's question, no, I don't think that they will adjust. That's been one of those challenges that has existed for years, is that California compared to Kansas, everything is more expensive, and we don't get adjustments based on the cost of living for our region. And since it's historically not happened, I'm not foreseeing it's going to happen in this case.
Okay. Vincent, thank you. Jay, anything you want to add on that?
No, I think that was a great summary.
Okay, I'm going to stick my neck out on the line, and I'm going to take this next question, but you guys please jump in here. Dear Senator Morrell, I would very like much to see you address what I consider a significant flaw in our COVID-19 policy. I was just informed that even golf courses that take extreme measures to prevent the spread of the virus has been directed to shut down. In this time of financial and emotional stress, one of her favorite pastimes is being curtailed. There is no need for this since it hurts small business, and of course, golf courses, I think you are fully aware that that's pretty much social distancing, especially for me when usually I hit the ball out of the fairway most of the time. She does go on to say she's fully aware of the seriousness of this situation, as I think we all are, but also she's keenly aware of the emotional toil this takes. However, golf course is one of those exercises that lends itself to very well sanitation and social distancing, and this is from Tamil in Rancho Cucamonga. And one of the things I just want to say is I would tend to agree with you. I take this as a very serious situation, but golf seems like it would be fresh air and one of those things. I think the public, I think we're going to get cabin fever staying in our homes, and I know in Arizona they just crossed this bridge, and they're opening up their golf courses. So I wasn't sure on what the answer was earlier today, Tamil, but my staff looked it up, and from what we understand, we believe it's up to the counties to do it. Sacramento County has opened their golf course, whereas I believe, I'm looking for my email here and I can't find it when I want it, and I think Riverside County posted they closed theirs down. And so we are trying to find out about San Bernardino County. We just haven't found out yet. But it appears it's a county decision, and hopefully, we'll use good judgment on that. But I'd like to see some of our businesses. There's what the governor has labeled some businesses essential and some non-essential. I don't believe there's any business that's a non-essential business, and I do agree with some businesses we have to, we can work out of the house and those types of things. But again, I'm not an expert on medical, but we're checking with our county, and we're going to try to get back to you, Tamil, on whether or not San Bernardino County will close or keep their golf courses open. So Jay or Vincent, you guys may have a different answer to that, and please feel free to give your opinion.
This is actually something I know a little bit about because we had a similar issue come up in my district with ski resorts, and the ski resorts were grappling with the issue of whether or not they should stay open. On the one hand, just like golf, the participants are definitely maintaining social distancing, right? But that is not the concern. The concern is all of the employees who are there to keep the business open, which is the same as a golf course. So my personal feeling is that Any business that can prove that they can respect the social distancing should be allowed to open, and golf courses are certainly amongst those. But as the senator said, that's a county by county decision.
Yes, and I have a couple of friends who work golf courses, and the courses have made changes. They allow walkers, they don't do carts, and they close the clubhouse. So people, and the walking course naturally keeps them further apart, and they're not touching golf carts and they're touching the same surfaces. So getting rid of the golf carts, and getting rid of the clubhouse access still allows the course to stay open. So an adjustment rather than absolute.
Yeah, and I think one thing about ski places that where I agree closing that down is, where they congregate, at the lunchroom and the cafeteria and that kind of thing. As I remember it, things get pretty crowded in there. So I get that. Okay, there were some other questions I just want to say that had to do with things outside of business that we weren't able to answer just because of time. And so I apologize for that. We're trying to keep everything on, on business, since that's what we said the town hall was going to be about. So here goes the next question. It says, where are the loans to recuperate our revenue losses instead of giving back to the employees who are getting unemployment? I have now hardly any clients coming through my door, and these government loans have a lot of conditions in order to get relief from loss of income. We need help. And the banks, she says the banks do not know what's going on. But anyway, that's just a personal comment. Any thought on that, Vincent?
That's what the purpose of the economic injury disaster loan is to address that issue. And so that's where I would suggest they apply. And that's the one where you go online to the SBA's website and apply directly to the SBA.
Okay.
And it's right. The PPP is a Paycheck Protection Program. So their option is to look at the economic injury disaster loan as their source for help. Good.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're coming down to, again, we compile a lot of these questions together, but we've got 5 or 6 more. And why don't we do, since our time's going to be coming up here pretty soon, sort of a lightning round where we can answer them as quick and get through as many as we can for our folks. And I'll start with Vincent, but Jay, jump in there at any time. So I'm going to go through these sort of quick. Number 1, how do we apply for the paycheck program?
You would apply to a bank. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go for that's fine.
Yeah, so those are going to be issued by federally insured banks and lenders. So they would apply, and preferably they should at least first talk to their existing lender, but to go to a bank for that application.
Okay.
Yeah, and as Vincent said, start with the bank that you currently bank with, and chances are they're an SBA lender, so start there.
Start there. And then how do loans work for self-employed, independent contractors, sole proprietors who do not do payroll?
Now, as we've discussed, these loans are designed for those kinds of businesses. Also, you don't have to have payroll to get access to the loans, especially for the EIDL loans.
Okay. There's a couple other questions here, but I think we've gone over those. But what we're going to do for our audience, there's a couple of websites, links we're going to put up on our website today that hopefully will be helpful to you, and it'll be on all 3 of our websites, which, again, let me just repeat that. Again, we've got Assemblyman Jay Obernolte, 8033.asmrc.org. We've got Vincent McCoy at Inland Empire, SBDC.org, me, Senator Mike Morrell, and that website is senate.ca.gov/Morrell, and Morrell is spelled Morrell. Assemblyman and Vincent, grateful for your participation today. Any last comments or closing thoughts that you gentlemen have? Jay, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I just want to remind everyone that both Senator Morrell and I have district offices with field representatives that have a real heart for serving our constituents during this crisis. So please, if you have a problem, if we can be of service to you, please get in touch with us. You can do that, through the website if you would like, or you can contact our district office. I'll give you that number. My district office is 760-244-5277, or you can email me at assemblymember.obernolte, OBERNOLTE, @assembly.ca.gov. So please let us know if we can be of assistance to you, not just with the small business issues, but with any issue you're having to deal with. We're happy to be a resource.
Yeah, I just want to mention this, by the way, to our audience. A number of offices have decided to close down, and we're one manning them, but we do have 2 offices. So you may have to leave a message, but let me give you my 2 numbers. My Rancho Cucamonga office is 909 area code 919-7731, and Sacramento is 916 area code 651-4023. And I think I can say for Jay and myself that the kind of people we've been fortunate to get and hire are people who are truly public servants, meaning they're here to serve the public and not themselves. So they'll do the best to get back to you and answer all your questions, although we have had a lot of questions. In some ways, even though I'm not in Sacramento, Jay and I aren't in Sacramento, we've been busy. I've been on so many conference calls and phone calls, I'm worried I'm burning up my brain cells. But anyway, I want to also thank the Chambers of Commerce for helping advertise our town hall. Thank you for that very much. And then Vincent McCoy, thank you for your help and for your valuable information, timely. Any last thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yes, like many others, we're working remotely, but you can call our office number, 951-781-2345, and it is being forwarded to a person who's scheduling appointments for anybody throughout our region. We have 11 part-time locations normally, so we have people throughout the 2-county area, and we're available to help. And the last thing is that I'm going to forward to you, Senator, our daily webinar link, so that if you would like to share it with your audience, it'll give a link to the daily webinars that happen every day at 3 o'clock to cover the COVID-19 and support for that.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Vincent. And to our audience, grateful for your participation. We hope we contributed something meaningful to you today, and we just wish you all the best. We ask for God's blessing over your families first, of course, your health and your businesses. And again, I want to thank you for today. And this concludes our program. Thank you again, and hope to see us out in the community soon, making money again. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.